What's up, everyone? Welcome to another Live to Roll Live. We're here this week. We're going to be talking about autonomic dysreflexia and blood pressure issues that quads and a lot of high level paras face too. I'm Sean, C5C6 quad. Tom, you want to give a quick intro?
Yeah, what's up, everybody? Welcome back for another week of Live to Roll. I'm Tom Conaway. What's up to anybody new out there joining us too? Like I said, I'm Tom Conaway, C5, C6 quad. Been paralyzed for 24 years. I'm 28 years old, and yeah, ready to talk about some autonomic dysreflexia. Over to Bobby.
Thanks, Tom. What's up, everyone? I'm Bobby Roham. I'm a C56 quad as well, 32 years almost injured at the end of this month. Good to be here. Can't wait to talk. And let's move it over to our guest, Maya.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, I am Maya. I am also a C5, C6 quad. I've been injured for almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years next month. I am excited to come talk to you guys about some AD and some blood pressure. Excited to be back on the show. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
And
sure.
a little bit about Maya. Maya's a rolette, and in the modeling, she's was Miss Wheelchair Illinois, right?
Yeah,
All kinds of stuff out there doing her thing, representing the wheelchair community and women everywhere. And I just wanted to shout out International Women's Day yesterday. So thanks for joining us today, Maya. We appreciate you being here. Let's talk about autonomic dysreflexia. Sean, do you want to maybe just go in for a minute on what autonomic dysreflexia is for anybody who might be unfamiliar with the term?
Yeah. All right. So basically, oops, let me adjust this camera real quick and add Bobby. All right. There we go. So basically, if you guys do not know, autonomic dysreflexia is something that affects spinal cord injuries T6 level and above. And it's something, it affects our blood pressure. So it's basically a huge spike in your blood pressure that's caused from something like that you don't know is happening in your body, some sort of pain, which can be something as basic as having to pee or have your bowel movement, to something more severe like having a broken leg or something, which can be way extreme. So, but
So
it can actually
discomfort
get very
below.
extreme. Go ahead.
So discomfort below the level of injury. And it was funny,
Right.
we were talking before the pod. It could even be something like pulling out hairs on your leg or something can trigger mild AD. Anywhere from big, severe, breaks sometimes, like broken bone would definitely trigger something like that. But AD, lots of mild forms of autonomic dysreflexia can be triggered very commonly by lots and lots of different things.
Yeah, definitely.
And some of the symptoms, the signs of AD are headaches, kind of a pounding headache. Usually it starts in the back. Sometimes people have it in the front of their heads. They get goosebumps, they get chills, sweating, changing in their vision. So they might be blurry, anxiety feelings, face and neck kind of blotchiness or kind of flush, maybe even your nozzle congestions or your runny nose starts happening. And then also what can happen is your heart can go up or it can go really slow.
Yeah,
I
those
wanted
are
to
scary.
touch on the headache part that Bobby had mentioned because that's something that I deal with terribly. It's the worst part of AD for me, and it's one of my first symptoms. Unfortunately, I don't get I'll get the heart palpitations, and then I'll get the pounding headache, and I'm the person who gets it in the front. So I'm crying in tears when that happens. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that
I'm
sucks.
with you. I get the front headache right here in between my eyes. And it's not my first symptom of AD. I start to get flushed. I get a runny nose. I only get flushed on one half of my face, though. Only on my left side for whatever reason. I'll get a really hot ear. My ear will get all warm and red. I'll get this tingly feeling all over my body. It's like waves of nerve sensation that kind of the way I describe it, it's like waves. It kind of just washes over from like below my level of injury, like up over to like, crawls over my body. It's like a super weird feeling. Now, if I don't address whatever the discomfort is that's triggering the AD, then it progresses to a headache. And there have been a couple times where I was like, my head is going to split open. Like
Yeah.
it hurt so bad. It's hard to even describe like that like level of pain. It was crazy and scary and super dangerous. And what's really going on in that situation is, and why autonomic dysreflexia is as dangerous as it is you're building a blood pressure, and the blood vessels in your brain are the smallest blood vessels in your body, and they're at risk of bursting and breaking open, and that is a stroke. So autonomic dysreflexia, very severe forms, can cause strokes and like really put other stuff at risk. So
The,
be aware of it. That's why it's so important. It's something that we all experience very commonly, but it can manifest in very extreme forms. That so you want to be aware of it and be able to treat the symptoms early on before it gets to stages like what we were talking about.
Yeah, because it's something
And
that you're
just
going to
like
deal with
everybody,
almost every day. Sorry, Bobby. You're going to deal with it every day, but those extreme cases are the where you have to really, when you start getting that throbbing headache and like vision blurry and just really bad things. Because not only stroke, it can even lead to having seizures, and you can even die. I mean, obviously from having even from the stroke and stuff. But so it can get very severe. But just the daily there it's just so there's so much variation, like because we every day we deal with it, like we all probably feel it every day slightly, but it's not to the level where we're going to worry, have to go to the hospital. So
What is your experience with it, Maya? Do you get AD frequently? Do you just experience severe episodes of it? Have you had any like scary episodes of AD?
Yeah, I have had some scary episodes. I have actually called an ambulance because my head was pounding for like almost the whole day. And it ended up being because I was constipated, which is another huge thing for me. I always get AD during my bowel program. And that's
mhm.
actually why I choose to do it at night when I'm sleeping, because that helps lower the risk of waking up with that headache. And then just regularly during the day, I get a little bit of AD, like what Tom was talking about with like those red flushes and getting hot in your ear. And that's how I know I have to pee. Like, I'm like, oh, time to cath.
So
Yes,
that's
you
But
funny.
know,
it's good.
Go ahead,
just
Bobby.
like what we were kind of what we were talking about, some we're all C5, C6 area of quad, and we're all different. Somebody might be a little bit stronger in the shoulder on the right or the left. Somebody has better wrist, but it's the same with AD. We can all have different symptoms, and we get to know our symptoms, just like how we get to know when we have to pee or something like that. The AD happens in those same forms. Mine is just extreme sweating, and it's sweating on one side of the face, back of the neck, or in the shoulders. And I don't get the headaches. Luckily, I get maybe the goosebumps and the chills and an extreme exhaustion. I'm just, if it's
Hmm.
going on for a long period of time, I'm extremely exhausted. So you get to learn your signs, and you get to learn to check them. And the ones that are higher, I know then there's something more serious. The ones that are lower, where it's just like a little bit of a drip sweat, it means, adjust my hips, move around a little bit,
Yeah.
make sure my catheter is flowing correctly. Up, yep, it was just kinked just a little bit. So you kind of have to know your symptoms and understand your symptoms.
My experience has been like very similar to all of you guys. Obviously, we're all the part of the quad squad. I like to call it, but my AD, I usually have it worse when I'm having bladder issues. I always get mild autonomic dysreflexia when my bladder's distended. So if I'm drinking a lot, I'm full, like that's kind of like my warning, like, hey, I'm gonna pee in the next half an hour, or else I'm gonna, really start to be uncomfortable. But I noticed, like in our comments, Heather mentioned, UTIs, and the UTIs are a huge, huge trigger for dysreflexia for me. I get bad bladder spasticity when I have a UTI, and so my bladder will actually like contract, I think, and like my bladder will be spasming, and it triggers my dysreflexia so bad. and it'll be like all day long. It's really, really tough. That's when I experience pretty much the worst AD. And what I do to combat that, I drink a crap ton of water to flush my bladder because it's the only thing that makes it feel good. Is just like kind of constantly like being filled and emptied, flush out that bacteria. And this sounds, I don't know if this is normal. I have a prescription for nitroglycerin. It's what they would give you to lower your blood pressure. It's a vasodilator. And I just have it on hand. It like expires after a year. So if you do get a prescription for it and have like it on hand, it's something that you have to get again. And basically the rule of thumb with it is if I got to take it, I got to be calling 911. I got to be on my way like to the ER. It's only for like severe episodes of dysreflexia. I've had a couple in my life, mostly as a result of bladder issues that have like put me in the ER. But having the nitroglycerin, knowing that I could, put one of those tabs under my tongue if like I am really scared I'm gonna have a stroke. If I also have a blood pressure cuff, measure my blood pressure, my like limit is kind of like 170 over 120. If I break that, it's like I got to be calling the doctor, like calling an ambulance or something. But it's very, very rare that I've had episodes like that.
That's really smart to have that, man, in case of emergency and stuff. I've actually personally never taken nitro for it, or don't have a prescription. I know that is what they give you at the hospital or something if you're in, having a issue and they know what it is, like that they know you're having AD. But yeah, I've never actually tried that. Do you guys, Bobby or Ryan, do you guys?
Yeah, I've experienced it. I had what I had 25 years ago, just one day. It was New Year's Day, and all of a sudden I just felt it in the back of my head, just creeping up higher and higher and higher. And I'm looking everywhere at my body going, what is going on? I don't know. My catheter was flowing. I think it was from a bad UTI to where I wanted to throw my head to the ground. I didn't know what to do. So I called 911. And something we'll discuss about going to the hospital with AD and the emergency room not knowing what to do. And that's part of the course. Luckily, I started calming down, got better, but then I would have these spikes. And we couldn't figure out what it was, but all of a sudden I'd have a spike. So they gave me some of that stuff. And the problem with it is it helped control the high spikes, but then it made me crash so fast that it even gave me like a different headache that I was like shot for the day. I was just like,
so one of the side effects is another gnarly headache from a blood pressure low. So it's like you treat the AD, which like is a relief because your body like starts to balance out, but then you get a gnarly headache from the side effect of the medication. But like
good to know because I've only used it like when I've waken up from my bowel program with like an intense headache. So I go right back to sleep with it. So I've never really experienced that headache or like the crashing from it. So thanks.
Yeah. Hey, this is what it's all about, sharing information. That coming down from dysreflexia can be really gnarly for me. Like it can take me out. If I have a bad episode of AD, it can take me 12 hours to come back to normal. And it's just, I'm exhausted afterwards. My body's just shot. Like I'm also very sensitive. So like if my bladder even gets a little bit distended or full, like I'll start to feel kind of like AD symptoms for the next day. Like very, like they come on quickly because my body is just kind of hypersensitive to it. It seems to be for whatever reason. I don't know if that's universal, but that's kind of how mine is.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense.
I was just reading some of Heather's comments, and I'm sorry to hear you're having a rough time with the 2 nights ago with your spasms so severe. And definitely getting to your doctor and start talking to your doctor, your urologist, getting on track of that, drinking more water during the day, see if you can flush something out. Because that's no joke for sure.
Yeah, I would say number one thing to do is talk to your doctor and get a urinalysis, like just get tested for like UTI, and Probably the quickest thing they could do to get you back to feeling normal is like if it is UTI, get you on a round of antibiotics or something. But just from what you're describing, it does sound like it could be a UTI because that's how mine is. My tummy, my abdomen is just like, constantly kind of shaking and spazzing crazy when I have a bad UTI like that.
See, I haven't had a UTI in over 2 years. I take this a supplement called D-Manos. Have you guys heard of it?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's great stuff.
And I take it just as a preventative. I take it. It has like D-Manos, cranberry, and dandelion extract all in one pill, and I just take that every day, and I've been great.
I think I bought that one before on Amazon. Did you get it on Amazon?
Yeah,
because I remember the dandelion and the mix of it. I think that one was good actually. That was one of the better ones I think I've done. But yeah, D-Monos is really good as a preventative for sure, and UTIs are no joke.
Anybody interested in looking it up? It's D-Manos, MANNOSE, and it's cranberry extract. The powder in the pill form is just like pure extracted D-Manos. One way to get it is to drink cranberry juice, but that's why it's good for bladder health is because of the high concentration of D-Manos. And taking in the pill form, what it essentially does is it creates a environment in your bladder that the bacteria can't survive in. They're like most leading causes of UTIs. So the idea is that if you constantly have it in your system, the bacteria is never really able to like take hold because it doesn't like to live in there. So it can be really great. I tried it, didn't seem to help me for whatever reason, but I know a ton of people, pairs and quads, that use it. So definitely worth trying if you're struggling.
Yeah, I take it, and I think it helps because when I have not taken it, I've noticed just worse effects, just my bladder, and that really does affect the blood pressure, like the spikes and the highs and the lows and stuff when having UTI. Like, man, like yeah.
And the best thing about it, it's a natural supplement, so your body just processes out, the extra stuff. Like it's meant to like be processed out into your bladder anyways to, kill all that bacteria. So it's all natural. It's not gonna, do anything to your system, which is except for, hopefully help you, which is good.
Yeah, for sure.
So Sean, you want to talk about in an emergency and getting to the hospital and the hospital not knowing what to do?
Yeah, let's get into that a little bit because so I actually for this purpose, and I'm gonna pop up on the screen right now, created these cards, and they're wallet-sized cards. They fold in half. If anybody wants one, please just message me. I'll send them out, or just put it in an envelope and drop it in the mail for you. I'll send a handful of them so you have some. But yeah, they just fold up and put it there because I had that experience early on when I was probably 3-4 months out of the hospital and I had a crazy spike like that, like to where I was, throbbing headache for hours, couldn't figure it out. It was actually a stone, I guess, I had in my bladder and a bad UTI. But when I got to the ER, and I even had the ambulance drive me to Northridge Hospital, which was farther, because I had just so recently just got out of rehab there, and just assuming that the spinal cord injury, like floor and everything would be good. But the ER doctors didn't know what to do with me. And I ended up getting an epidural while I was there because they thought that was going to be something to help. And it didn't help at all. So it was a really rough experience. I spent, I think I actually spent the night in the hospital, in the ER, like basically left like early AM. And it was rough. And not having the doctors know what they were doing or looking. And I was too early and too new to know what to tell them too. So like if I could have told them, like this is my blood pressure, this is because of something that's in my body, like, but I just couldn't. And that's another, actually, one of the other symptoms that can happen from AD is like confusion and brain fog. So it can be hard to explain yourself in that state sometimes. So like if you don't have something you can, or somebody that knows, that's with you and they can share, like it can be difficult. So I'm sure you guys have had situations like that too, where like I don't know. That's the best advice I could have is just try to have the information for the doctor and try to get a doctor that knows something about what you're dealing with.
Yeah,
another great resource is to go to Crank Hospital. We have a website, and you can download PDFs about what AD is, and not only bring in a card, but bring in the information that they might have. They
Right.
also have an emergency contact number. So that hospital can call Craig Hospital and say, excuse me, he's saying he's got AD. Tell me about it. What should we do? And they might listen to another national hospital that might help you out.
That's yeah. There you go.
Always, the best thing too is, make sure you're educated yourself. If only to like inform your caregivers and the people close to you so that they know, or you can continue to inform new people, that you train. But it's very important, everyone, understands what AD is and how to communicate, what it is effectively. And it may be as simple as just getting that card and reading through it, being able to like list off those bullet points and stuff. Just like make sure you're somewhat familiar with it. There's generally like confusion. Our quad bodies are like so non-standard. Like I've been paralyzed for going on 25 years, and I'm just not normal anymore. Like my average like BP is like 110 over 70 or like 110 over 80. Like this morning it was 106 over 77. So when I'm at like 150 over 100, like that's high for me. Like I'm feeling it, and it may be like kind of just normally high for someone with regular hypertension, but when it's like approaching that for me, like I'm starting to get severe discomfort and stuff. And that's been difficult to communicate to nurses and doctors, like ER staff and stuff. It's like, hey, like this isn't your normal case. Like I know you're going off your baseline here, but we're gonna have to like try to adjust and figure that out because my baseline is different than your standard patient. So understanding and learning about your body, it's super important. Know your standards. Know your average BP for you. The only way to figure that stuff out is to kind of measure it, monitor it regularly. I take my blood pressure usually at least once a day. If I can, I just have like a wrist cuff, or every couple of days at least. But
And keep a log.
a log.
So a good thing is to do is keep a log. When you do have AD, recognizing it might be during a time of UTI, recognize what the high is, your high number. So the next time if you're way above that, it might be something more severe.
Yeah. Hipcrip just said that he averages 90s over 60s, and
Yep.
that's about where I am. I'm almost always under 100. And when I'm in my chair, like it's definitely lower, like because I'm sitting, in such a compact, upright position in this manual chair. Like a lot of times when I go to the doctors, I'll be in the 70s and 80s, sometimes over 40 or 50. Like, and they're always concerned and like, oh my God, I don't, is this, well, now my doctor pretty much knows, but like, yeah, at least when I get my blood pressure taken, when I get my catheter changes, I'm usually laying in bed. So it's like 100 over, 60, 70. So it's like seems a little more normal, but that's laying down. So yeah.
How about you, Maya? Do you monitor your blood pressure regularly, or I take it?
I don't really monitor it regularly. I just kind of go by how my body's feeling. I do run in the 90s normally. If I hit the 60s, I'm like ready to pass out. So that's
Oh yeah.
as low as I can
That's
go. I'm
low.
seeing stars at that point. Like, but I can also feel when it increases just a little bit. Like normally, right after I take my Midodrine, like in the afternoon, it will go up to like 110, but that's about as high as it will go.
If you're
Unless I'm having
experiencing, if you're experiencing like really like heavy lows during the day, if you think like it could be something related to some of my blood pressure, like some days when my blood pressure is low, like let's just say like I have no energy, I have no appetite, I have no nothing. It's really difficult. And the way that I keep my BP up and stuff is I keep my body as active as possible. But for some people, it's just a chronic issue, especially for women, like who are paralyzed. I read that before in certain studies that women suffer from lower blood pressure more frequently than men for whatever reason. But maybe something to seriously consider talking to your doctor about. If you think it might be affecting you, it's worth it to the very least, like Bobby said, monitor it, measure it, keep a log once or twice a day. It takes like 2 minutes. It's a really easy thing to do. There's medication and stuff that they can give you to help regularly keep your blood pressure higher or lower and stuff. Like so something to think about if you're might be struggling with it.
And you can struggle. I mean, we can talk a little bit about blood pressure because it doesn't have to be AD. You're thinking that shooting up high, but we're talking about shooting down low. I know for myself, the morning times eating a big meal, I'm done for. It's 2 hours of my head down and trying to get some kind of blood moving somewhere to my brain because it's all gone to my stomach if I eat too fast or too big of a meal, especially in the morning. At night, I'm fine, but the morning. So it's like I look at food in the morning and I'm terrified. I know it's going to be an hour of, oh, oh man, trying to bring up that blood and pushing up my on my stomach, or as I was telling Sean before we got on, a little trick we used to do for rugby. When you're just about to get out on the court, I used to pull the hairs out of my legs so my AD would go up. So it just kind of made my heart pump faster, and I'm like, cool. So sometimes I've had to do that when driving. We just got done at a rest stop and ate something, and all of a sudden the blood pressure is kind of dropping, and I'm like, oh man, I'm driving, and I tell my wife, pull my hairs, and it's like, ooh, okay, there, some AD came in, and that kind of helped. But I know we all suffer from something like that when we eat or maybe even get too active.
So
No,
the thing that
the
we
eating
experience
thing.
when we eat, I researched it before I even talked to a doctor about it. After I talked to another quad who experienced it very regularly after they eat, and it affects me bad. And it's called postprandial hypotension, and it's an excessive decrease in blood pressure that occurs after a meal, and it's generally like higher, like calorie dense, like carbohydrate heavy meals can trigger it more intensely. So eating lower carbohydrate, lower calorie dense stuff, um, like over time can like at that if you struggle with it. That's kind of what I do. I snack a lot. I do a lot of like little meals, and then I like do one big meal a day. But I always need that hour after I eat, and sometimes I can't even finish my meal. Like I take 3 or 4 bites, and like I'll take a handful of bites, and I start to experience it, and I like got to set my food down and come back to it. Half an hour later after I like gain some energy back or like my blood pressure's come back. Yeah, kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Is it more of like how much you eat or what you eat? Because my blood pressure is affected like when I eat dairy. It's super weird.
Interesting.
I don't know if anyone else
Um,
experiences that.
hmm,
It might be something
I
with
don't
the
know.
digestion, like Tom said, like carbohydrates and things like that are heavier. Your body's taking more to digest, so like you have more blood directed. Because that's one thing that's somebody told me this a while back is like what Tom said. Your blood is being diverted. Basically, it's going to your stomach to help you digest. It's going to your intestines. It's going into everything to help move that food through. So your blood pressure everywhere else is dropping. And yeah, I experience it every time I eat. So like Bobby, like you guys see me all the time. I'm doing these lean backs. That's low blood pressure, anyways. So if I'm at a restaurant and trying to eat out, or like it hasn't been too recently, but like anytime I'm out, it's embarrassing. Like I have to make sure nothing's behind me because like I'm like sitting here like rocking around like, oh my god, all right, and I gotta
Ten,
pace myself.
10 minutes into my meal, I'm like back in my like power chair up and like tilting back and like trying to get my blood to like shift and like move and like get my body like back feeling normal. Like, dude, same exact thing. It's crazy.
Yeah, man.
So how many times have you hit the waitress walking by?
Oh, I've hit quite a few. Not gonna lie, I have hit quite a few, and I've hit people that are sitting behind me on the table, like leaned way back, like oh, my head hits their back. I'm like, oh, sorry, my bad.
Quad
Uh,
problems.
yeah.
Yeah, quad
Yeah.
problems for sure.
Then my wife is
So
always like, watch it, watch it, watch it. He's coming, he's coming.
we gotta touch on this as well. A very common trigger for dysreflexia following paralysis, spinal cord injury, can be during sex, orgasm. That can be trigger. I don't know how universal it is amongst men and women. I know it very commonly affects men. Um, and basically, yeah, like genital stimulation and or like orgasm can trigger dysreflexia. Pretty severe. It's like it happens to me. Um, not super severely, not severe enough that it like gives me a bad headache or anything, but it's happened a couple times like that. And it's just part of the experience, part of the learning curve. Gotta learn about your body, learn how to not trigger it. That's just through, like experience, experimentation. But if it's something that your body's super sensitive to, some people are, talk to your doctor about it. And there are things out there, that nitroglycerin stuff I was talking about earlier. There are other forms of it. There's patches. There's even this stuff called nitro paste. It's just
Yeah,
like an
paste.
ointment on your skin, and it's same thing, vasodilator that can help not allow the AD to be as intense, or even come on as intense during sex. So there are solutions out there for it. It's not like an end all be all, and it's something that decreased over time for me. I got it very early on when I started to learn about like my sexual function, but the more I learn about my body, just experience things and stuff, I noticed that over time it just got less and less intense, and I can like now like uh, not trigger at all sometimes. It also depends if there's something going on with my body, if my bladder is off, if like my body's sensitive. That can also make me sensitive to AD, during that kind of activity and stuff.
That's what I
So it's
was
just
gonna
something to be
add.
mindful of. If you experience it during sex, it's super normal, and don't let it scare you or hinder you too much from pursuing that kind of stuff. Just talk to your doctor and figure out what you can do to treat those symptoms.
Yeah, that's the problem is we're constantly dealing with like highs and lows. We get this, we're almost always at like a low state and then we get these crazy spikes. And so it's hard to manage, and you really have to start to learn your body and understand what's causing these triggers and things. But like with sex, yeah, it's definitely a big one. Like you get the big spike, and then I know for me and I think like a lot of people, you get a huge blood pressure drop after to where your body is like way you really feel that. So it's same thing, you get the high, the low. So it can be dangerous, and you definitely do want to talk to your doctor if you're worried in any way about that.
Yeah, and
Also,
I will
my
add that it is a universal issue. It doesn't just
Okay.
happen to men; it happens to women as well. Experiencing AD during sex, it is like, oh, it's a one-off thing. It doesn't happen for me at least every time, but when it does happen, it can be very intense with the headache, and I'm like, whoa, 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 okay, look, I can't, So you just gotta listen to your body when it does throw those signs out, and don't try to continue for yourself or for your partner. It would be mainly for your partner because you're not enjoying anything if you're having AD, but don't try to force yourself because you're going to end up possibly stroking out, so definitely listen to
Yeah,
your body.
really good advice. I always say err on the side of caution. If you're worried about it, I think the best thing to do is just talk to your partner about it before you have sex. Just be like, hey, this is something that could possibly happen. If we gotta stop or take a break, like it's nothing you're doing, and it's like nothing that's wrong. It's just we gotta slow down. Like just what my body experiences, and if you're comfortable with your partner, it should be an issue, and they should be more than happy to accommodate you for that kind of stuff. So yeah, just be mindful of it, for sure. And good advice, Maya.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. Another
John.
one, so I'm gonna just bring up, since we're kind of like on the topic of things that affect it and somewhat, I guess, adult-ish themed. So also smoking, like, because most of us know, most people that watch know, I use cannabis. You do. I think everybody but Bobby pretty much does mostly regularly, but that can also really affect. So smoking, like, if I'm having a like light AD, little bit of AD, smoking a little bit can really help because it actually lowers my blood pressure. But if I'm already having a little bit of a low blood pressure day and I smoke, it it can really drop my blood pressure. So you have to be careful, and you have to mind all the things you're putting into your body and doing to your body for stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
marijuana is definitely can lower your blood pressure. It can also help mitigate some of the symptoms of AD,
yep,
especially if you're coming
helps.
down from it. I think I try to think of autonomic dysreflexia as like my quad superpower. because it like my body talks to me, like where I can't feel. And it's my job to kind of learn to listen to those, signs from below where I don't have the sensation. I mean, at least it gives me something I can, listen to, which I am really grateful for, as scary as like stuff can be. So if I'm experiencing the symptoms of AD, you always want to try to figure out what's causing it first before you try to like cover up the symptoms too much. If the
Hmm.
symptoms get too bad, where you can't function, that's when you can take something and try to do something, and then continue to figure out what the underlying cause of it is. But like especially my like my bladder was like super, distended. I was like out with my friends, like at a bar drinking or whatever, and like I waited too long to pee, and like I got some like serious AD from it or whatever. But I know I relieve my bladder and my body's coming down. Like if I smoke a little bit, like cannabis can definitely help mitigate some of the more severe symptoms of like the AD and the headache and the stuff, and help kind of like bring my body back to balance. I found, but again, it can affect your blood pressure and it can swing you too low. So, it's just one of those things to be very mindful of. Always practice in small doses if you do
Yeah,
decide to use any of this stuff, and just learn, how your body is affected by it before you, do anything too crazy.
definitely.
So another kind of risk factor for AD is skin issues.
Hmm.
Thinking about developing a pressure sore, two-way pressure sore, sitting on your cushion backwards or sideways, or not in the right spot that we all kind of like, that sweet spot. Having your shoelace inside your shoe, or your a sock in there. So I've had a sock was left in my shoe and then put on my shoe and didn't notice it until like a couple hours of AD going, what is going on? And then finally took off my shoe and there was a sock in there. Um, Looking at your skin around your hips, around your legs. So some people have where their legs are up against the frame of their chair. So definitely taking a look at your skin at the end of the day. If you notice, like, if you are someone that is taking their blood pressure on a daily basis, looking at it, and if it's at 140 and you're like, ooh, that's high for me, maybe looking at your skin, checking your skin, making sure it's not the clothing you're wearing, because some of us might buy clothing and the pants or something's too tight around our waist, or buttons in the back of our shorts that we didn't realize that can give us some kind of issue. So looking at many different areas of your chair and your skin can be a factor.
And I always, it's part of my care routine. My caregivers I always have them roll me over my bed and like I call it the booty check. Look at my backside, like make sure that my skin's okay and stuff. Like very often, things like can go unnoticed. Unless you really like roll and like mean to look. And I don't know. I found like I've always been able to avoid anything serious. I've only had one major pressure sore from something like what Bobby described. My shoe, the heel of my shoe like was folded under my foot, and it was just like putting pressure on the heel of my foot. And next thing I know, like I was all day, I was like, "What the heck is going on? Like, what's triggering this?" And then my leg spasmed and my shoe flew off, and like I felt the relief instantly. But it blistered. That was the only pressure sore I had that like turned into a small wound, and it was healed within a few weeks, thankfully. But that's why I call it my quad superpower, because I feel like that's the only reason I've never had a severe pressure sore, is because when my body's like it's like talking to me, like before I can develop it. Like I know, like my sensitive areas are my coccyx, like my tailbone. After I lost weight, like I lost my padding back there, and that's a real sensitive area. If I'm sitting on a hard surface. But almost instantly, I start to feel the chills. I start to feel the effects. I'm like, oh, nope, I need to put a cushion down. I need to put a towel down or something, to make my butt feel more comfortable. But I'm so thankful to those odd sensations and those weird feelings and those chills and those sweats, because it's a hell of a lot better than dealing with wound recovery and dealing with, stage 3 or 4 pressure sores and stuff. No doubt.
That's really true, man. Because there's some days where I'm like, damn, this AD, like, because I'm just having like little mild things. But like you said, dude, it is really your superpower. It is telling you, you got to check something out. Something's not right in here. Something, you got to figure this out, like, and that's my, my things are same as you. my bladder is the first thing I'm always checking. Um, and then besides that, it's just, yeah, my back, since I'm so skinny, a lot of times I get like a little bit of AD just from like leaning on my back too much. So like coming off of that and leaning off and doing little pressure reliefs and things will help level it out a little bit. But yeah, you're right, dude. That's really like that's the best thing we have to
Yeah.
combat like things, you know.
And I
So
don't know, like it always helps like in my mind to like reframe like stuff that I thought as like very negative elements in my life. Like if I can reframe them in a positive way, then like I can see them like better. Like I can deal with them a little easier. So that's just kind of my trick for like looking at AD, in a different light. Rather than this like crazy thing that makes me uncomfortable all the time. But like outside of the bladder stuff, I did want to mention again. We had like did a bowel care talk last week. Constipation, one of the
yep.
most common triggers for AD. If you are, if your skin's okay, if like your bladder's okay and stuff, just the dismotility from not moving, from sitting down. It can happen to anyone, even if you're active. Paralysis is just something it does to us.
So I actually have a question for Bobby on that subject. So since because Bobby recently got the colostomy bag and switched from doing regular bowel programs, has your like daily AD like gone down at all from that? Like because I know I have
It's,
a
I
ton of
mean,
like you know issues. So
yeah.
yeah,
So
how is that?
basically, it's 100% better. It's not the same AD as before. It's the old AD was 2 hours, sweating, couldn't sit up, it just took everything out of me. Now it's kind of like especially when I exercise or move a lot, that gets everything flowing, and all of a sudden I notice things are happening for my colostomy, and my colostomy bag is filling up, and I get kind of a little bit of a sweating, but it's not an AD. It's not like before where it wiped me out. It's not like a headache or the massive sweating I used to get. And once it's done, it's done. It's not like I'm exhausted, and I never could do it at night. Like you, I always had to do it in the morning, which was a disaster because it just wrecked my day. But if I tried to do it at night, it just nothing would happen. So I always had to do it in the morning for some reason. I think it was probably the coffee that got things started. But now, so since I went to the colostomy, it's like, oh, thank you. I have more energy throughout the day.
The main cause for AD during the bowel program is usually vagal nerve stimulation. If you do any kind of like digital stimulation, use a suppository. For me, it's like digital stimulation and enema. The enema administration and the dig stim will definitely like stimulate the vagal nerve and trigger my AD. Like usually during my bowel program, I can feel my blood pressure is usually like pretty up there. Sometimes I'll even like get kind of sweaty and like uncomfortable. Taking care of my diet and taking care of like how I eat, like helping things move better that way, really helps relieve that. When I'm backed up, when I'm like eating crappy foods and like making my bowel program harder, that's when it's difficult. And that's when I'm usually struggling from the dysreflexia and stuff. Or if I'm having an issue with my bladder, if I have a bad UTI, it doesn't matter what I do, like the bowel program will trigger it super bad. So something to think about if you struggle with dysreflexia, certain times of day, bowel program can be triggering it. But again, I've found in my experience, there are solutions to help mitigate some of those symptoms. You can do things that, help keep your body cleaned out, like eat good food, do the right stuff, maintain a really regular program. Find one that works for you. And it's a tough journey. So we got a good episode on it. If anybody's looking for more information on that stuff, make sure to check it out. But something to really think about if you're having issues with your tummy and dysreflexia.
Also,
I
when
wanted to.
Go
You're
ahead,
good,
Sorry,
Maya.
go
Maya.
ahead.
Bobby.
No,
Okay,
you
I
go
wanted
ahead.
to go ahead And touch on an aspect of constipation when we were talking about that. Even if you're having like a regular bowel movement or what seems to be a regular bowel movement, you can still be constipated. That happened to me, and I had no idea why I was experiencing so much AD. I'm like, I'm having bowel movements. What's going on? I don't have anything on my skin. Like, what is this? And I ended up in the hospital for 2 days for constipation. So it's just sometimes you might have to go in and get an X-ray, or a scan and see what really is going on. If you have done all your other checklist about AD and you can't find anything, a lot of it may be internal.
And my solution to that is, because I experience the same thing, Maya, it doesn't matter how consistent or regular my bowel program is. It seems like every 6 months, once a year, I'll get constipated, I'll get kind of backed up. No, like just regardless of whatever I do, like I maintain a good, healthy program and stuff, one that works for me. I feel like, but I think it's part of the paralysis and this motility. Maybe it's certain foods we eat that trigger it, or maybe even medications. Like I know if you take pain, management meds like narcos and things like that, any form of narcotics can cause severe constipation. But my solution to that, and what I do to avoid ending up in the hospital, is I'll every 6 months, every once a year, if I'm feeling like my belly's bloated, if I'm feeling really backed up, if I feel like I'm having a hard time, just I'll take like a really serious laxative. I'll go get some magnesium citrate from CVS or Rite Aid, drink 2 bottles of that. And it's like not a fun day where like my body's kind of like spitting itself out, like getting rid of everything. But it helps like avoid the AD and the constipation and the severe symptoms by just doing that maintenance. Like once a year, once every 6 months, whatever it is for you. But that's what works for me, and that's what I found I need to do to keep that from happening.
Yeah, because
So I
that's
wanted
honestly
to
one of.
ask Maya
Oh yeah.
something us guys can't relate to. What about that time of the month? And are you getting AD
That's a
during
good question.
that time? And I know I was reading off the uh, Craig Hospital website some other common symptoms that I'll bring up. But it says menstruation and pregnancy. So I'm not sure if you're a mom or not or went through that, but that other part, I'm wondering if it causes that.
That is a really good question, Bobby. And I am not a mom, but so I don't know about the pregnancy part. But as far as menstrual cycles, uh, cramping is like 10 times worse with AD. Like the cramping is just really intensified, and it's not like the standard AD headache, but I feel it in my head, like the cramping, and it's just all tied in. And my blood pressure obviously is elevated. So when I'm on my menstrual cycle, my blood pressure, like my baseline is usually like 110, and normally it's in the 90s. So it's like 20 points up. So I'm experiencing like mild AD constantly. And another part, I also get AD during ovulation. After I never felt my ovulation prior to my injury, but now because I'm getting AD during it, I feel that, and it's crazy to me. There's not really a solution. I go back, I smoke a little bit of weed when I'm cramping. That really helps, lowers my blood pressure. But other than that, um, birth control birth control can help combat some of that for some women out there that want to go that route. If you deal with it and you deal with severe AD on your period, I would recommend some form of birth control. Talk to your doctor about it.
Oh,
That's
that's
great. And
cool.
I don't know if Mickey, if usually we have one of our listeners, Mickey, she's usually on, and I know she was, oh no, she's a para. So, if any of the women out there could make a comment. And I've heard through some of my friends that you do have to really talk with your doctor, and it is, something that might be a planned pregnant or planned birth when the time comes. So I've heard of women like that. Also, some things that we don't think of when it comes to AD. Other abdominal problems such as gallstones, stomach ulcers, gastritis. Other things are blood clots. Some of us, like myself, I have HO, which is heterotopic ossification, which is a little bit of a bone growth and maybe usually your hips or your knees. Broken bones, and I'll touch on that for a second. Tight or overstretched muscles, severe cold or hot temperatures in the
Oh,
weather. So severe
the
cold.
cold.
So one thing over my time, I've broken a few bones here and there, and just recently my hip. And it's funny when it first happens, there's no sign. I'm like, ooh, I hope that wasn't what I thought it was. And it usually like the next day or the day later, I'm getting some kind of signs like, ooh, what's going on? Something's going on. Oh, there's swelling, so something's happening. And then really about 5 days later, severe sweating. And I'm like, oh man, I can't stop sweating. My body's really reacting. And I'm not sure if that's the shock of your body just trying to adjust and the pain really comes in. But it's so strange. I never get high AD when I have broken a bone like my ankle or my femur.
I've gotten AD triggered from breaking a toe, and even like messing up a toenail. Like I ripped a toenail off real good one time,
I did
and
that.
it like sent my body wilding out. But I also like experience severe spasticity if I do any kind of like physical damage to my legs or feet. Like my legs just go crazy. The few times that I've like tweaked my ankles, and I've never done anything super serious, but usually like I'll get the mild AD, but I'll get super intense abdominal spasms, and my legs will be like stuck out like boards. And trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a
Now, I do want to like just summarize some general information for anybody out there who's new to this, who's trying to figure out, all right, how do I understand AD? Like, what do I do if I think I'm starting to get it? Really just touched on kind of most common causes for it. It's literally going through a checklist. You check your skin, you check your bladder. For me, I always check my bladder first. I always cath. Next thing, I will get out of my chair. I'll take my shoes off. I'll check my feet. I'll check my bottom. Like take my shorts off. I'll shift my weight, adjust my weight. If I'm still experiencing symptoms, that's when maybe I'll call someone. Like usually I'll call my mom and be like, hey, I'm like getting pretty bad AD. I don't know what to do. Just because I want someone to be aware, especially if I'm alone, because I live by myself. If I get choked out or something, like have someone on the other side to call 911 or at least be aware that you're having some issues and check in on you. And then you really can't figure it out. It's unfortunately something you can't wait too long if the symptoms are getting more serious. It sounds extreme, but usually, like it's better to err on the side of caution with these things, especially until you're more familiar with your body and AD symptoms and common triggers for it. Don't hesitate to call 911, get into an ambulance, get into ER, especially before the symptoms get too severe. The time is on your side if you are still coherent, if you're not in too much pain from severe headaches and other issues with your body going on that's making you not able to communicate. But going, erring on the side of caution, going in when you're coherent enough to communicate what AD is, what symptoms you're experiencing, and try to solve it that way, with a team of people. It's definitely the safer route to go. Anything else to add,
yeah.
Bobby, on my end?
I mean, I 100% agree. I think looking at your blood pressure, knowing what it is, keeping a log, looking at, your surroundings, your body, your skin, knowing when you might have a UTI by smell or the look of the urine. It seems like sometimes I make it sound easy, but it's a struggle. Keeping on top of your daily care is sometimes a struggle, and you're just, oh man, now it's dark today, and now it's smelly today, or now I got a little red spot here, and you know, but it's something if you want to stay healthy, stay out of the hospital. It's those daily care checks each and every day.
Yeah,
And I
exactly. I
gotta
think it's
say,
just so
like,
important.
it's never like super easy, but it does get easier. It's one of those things. It's like a learning curve. Once you learn the routine, once you learn what to do, once you fall into that routine, it really does become second nature. And like being able to stay out of this stuff a lot of the time is the name of the game. But it's really kind of just a matter of learning, and taking some punches along the way too. Unfortunately,
And when
but
you do learn that routine, it's really important to stay consistent with knowing your body because our bodies change over time. As we go farther into our injury or just as circumstances change around us, our bodies tend to adapt. So it's just really important to always listen to your body and know that things can change. Things can be different.
And
Yeah,
I mean, we're
exactly.
lucky, like as quads and stuff. Like it's really easy for me to look at my pee, like after a cath and stuff. But you just gotta do those maintenance checks. Like you gotta look at your pee, make sure it's not cloudy, make sure it's not smelly and stuff. Notice those things. If it is, like the first thing I do is I grab a 20-ounce water bottle and I do my best to chug that sucker in the next hour. And then afterwards, I get another one and keep on drinking until that smell, until that color is gone, and like it's good, like at least for a day or two, and then I can relax a little bit and stuff. But like I said, we could go on and on about what we do. If you are experiencing any specific issues and want to talk to us personally, like stuff we didn't touch on, please like don't hesitate to reach out. But really, a lot of this stuff is very individual. Pay attention to your body, listen to the AD signs and symptoms, and try to learn what they mean.
Yeah, exactly. Just try to learn your body, really. That's especially, I mean, initially you really got to pay a lot of attention just to learn those initial first signals. But like Maya said, it doesn't stop. Like you have to keep paying attention to your body. You have to keep noticing these signs and signals and just like keep learning and adapting because that's what we have to do, adapt and survive.
Absolutely. It's the name of the game. Do we have any more questions in the comment section? Anybody out there watching? Anything else they wanted to ask before? I know we're getting close to the 4:30
I
mark.
didn't see. Yeah, we're
Um,
about there.
And
Peter mentioned moleskin is a lifesaver for blisters. Um, So that's a tip for blisters and stuff. Because yeah, those are definitely another one of those little triggers. I had actually got really bad blisters on the back of both of my heels because I switched my socks and didn't realize there was like a tight seam on the back, something stupid like that. I had to toss those socks and start fresh. But
That's so funny. Yeah, I
yeah.
found that anytime I get like a sore, like a wound like that, even if it's just a blister, I don't know. I go too crazy only because my mom like instilled the fear of God in me from like 10%. But like I will stay like I'll keep my shoe off, I will keep the sock off, like it'll be on a pillow, like elevated, like until it's like fully dried out and like there is no like wound bed anymore. Just because like, I'm so scared of, something getting worse and out of hand. So I really like try to, stay on top of that stuff early on if I do get anything. But yeah, take care of your skin. Lotion up, everybody. We get dry, we crack, we bend and move funny. Lotion up after your shower. Rehydrate your skin, especially like in your crevices and stuff. Like I get like cracks like right in my groin area. Like can dry out sometimes and stuff. So, but little skin things like that will for sure cause a really mild AD and other stuff.
you know,
So
and something to think about, getting out of the shower, keeping yourself dry. Something I have to do is just make sure in between the crotch area, it gets really dry, because any of that moisture can cause problems down the road. And it has been a headache where it gets red and irritated. And so it's something I got to completely watch. Not like I don't know, when I was younger, I just either never noticed it, but over time, it's just become a problem. And kind of like what Maya said, we change. And it's something that changed about 5 years ago. And all of a sudden, it was just like, wow, I just have to have this area really dry.
yeah, and for me, it's like in between my toes. I always gotta tell whoever's helped me get out of the shower, like you gotta dry in between each of my toes, because if they stay moist or wet, like anybody shoe all day, like the skin will like not be happy, and like I'll feel it. So little things to pay attention to. A lot of people don't think about drying between the toes. Sometimes when they get out of the shower.
Yeah, no, that's all
Uh,
good advice. That's
yeah.
great, guys. Thanks. I'm just gonna do a quick shout out. Brianna was watching, said great conversation, and first and third Thursday of the month. So next Thursday, Brianna will be back for a all new women's show, just to let everybody know. And then, like usual, we are here every Tuesday at 3:30. And next
Get
week,
it.
this is actually probably the last week I'm gonna do this from my room here. I have my studio I've been working on for over 4 months. I'm moving furniture in. I think we'll be there next week. So yeah, Live to Roll Live next week will
Big
be.
things coming to Live Rolling. On
Yeah.
that note, do not forget to
Unfortunately,
like,
Bobby might
comment,
not
and
be here, but
subscribe.
that's okay. We will welcome Bobby in on the week after.
If you haven't done it yet, smash that like button. If you found this video useful, if you think anybody else in your life might find it useful, share it around. We're just trying to spread the love and lots of good positive information
And real
for
quick, Heather
all of us.
mentioned she'd love to stay in touch
Yeah.
somehow. All of our Instagrams are on the screen and in the description. And you can reach out to any of us. I'm sure Maya's fine with it too. So if you have any questions, especially Heather, being a woman, you might want to talk to another woman. So, but yeah, we're all available. So feel free to reach out.
And
No problem.
Heather, best of luck with your spasms and the AB and the possible UTI stuff. I'll make sure I just wish you well on your journey to healing from whatever's causing that stuff.
For sure.
And
All right,
Heather,
guys.
I just want to say, Heather, it's important to stay connected. You said you live alone, but we'll get you hooked up with a lot of people. You might not be in California, but we can direct you into some great resources. So hit us up on Instagram.
Definitely. All right, everybody.
Guys, it was a great
thanks for
show.
being, Maya.
Glad to be here
Thank you
again.
so much. We really appreciate you joining us. You had lots of awesome information, tons to add to the conversation. So thank you for being here and sharing all that with us today.
Yes, and thank you, Tom and Bobby, for being back all the time. And
Thank you, people. Thank you, Sean, our illustrious producer.
all
Creator
our
of
people
Roll.
watching and everything. All right,
And,
we will
If
see
you
you
haven't
guys.
hit that like button, hit that like button.
That's right.
Thanks,
Smash
everyone.
the like. All right, everybody. See you guys next week.